Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. Just recently, I tackled all 7 challenges available for the Mage Tower during Legion time walking, and I walked away with my brand new Spell Tome mount, but also experience inside of the Mage Tower. During my time on the inside, I tested every single cheesy method available in order to overcome some of the harder challenges that the game has to offer. Things like trinkets that scale incredibly well inside of the Mage Tower, certain enchants that work way too well inside of some of these fights, a lot of gear with a lot of sockets on them, and a lot of consumables from older expansions that work way too well for some of these bosses. So I hope you guys use this list of what I think are useful items that may make your Mage Tower experience easier as you're trying to tackle some of the fights for Mogs, mounts, and more. But first, most of you guys watch these videos are not subscribed, and there's more of you that are watching but haven't subbed yet. So if you watch these videos anyway, you might as well hit subscribe as well as hit the bell for guide videos like these that help you with the Mage Tower, class guides in the future, as well as future WoW updates like patch 9.2. The first topic I want to start with is gearing for the Mage Tower. Generally, all you need for the Mage Tower is some Shadowlands gear that has pretty decent secondary stats. Gear with sockets tends to scale a little bit better inside of this content. Though if you're struggling with any of the boss fights where you're not meeting the DPS checks, there are ways for you to squeeze out a little bit extra out of your character. Secondary stats are good, but primary stats like intellect, strength, and agility are going to give you the biggest DPS gains all around. If you played in Battle for Azeroth, there's a good chance in your bank you may have a couple of pieces of Azerite gear you used back in the day. Azerite gear is a perfect source of mass amounts of primary stats at a cost of secondaries. If you didn't play back in BFA, but you want to try Azerite gear inside of the Mage Tower, the easiest way to do it is to unlock the zone of Nazjatar and buy some catch-up gear Azerites from there. If you don't have the zone of Nazjatar unlocked, start the quest Send the Fleet for both Alliance and Horde from Nathanos or Gen Greymane at the docks of either Horde or Alliance cities of Battle for Azeroth. In Nazjatar, you'll have Horde and Alliance vendors that will sell you gear for Benthic Azerite pieces. Benthic gear requires pearls to purchase, though every single rare, treasure, dailies, and world quest all have a chance to give you pearls, and they're not really difficult to come by in the zone. You could pair your Azerite gear together with the Heart of Azeroth, as well as the Legendary Cloak from Battle for Azeroth, which all come with secondary stats of Crit, Haste, and Mastery, which scale incredibly well inside of the Mage Tower. You could always pick up some socketed gear. The easiest way to get some socketed pieces is to run Siege of Orgrimmar on Mythic. A lot of the gear from Siege of Orgrimmar can come with double and even triple sockets, and attaching agility, intellect, or strength gems inside of the sockets can help bolster your character and scale better inside of the Mage Tower. If you really want to go try hard, you could always use Chromie time walking with a friend, mostly for TBC content. There's a lot of dungeons in TBC that have double and triple socketed gear, and you can get a lot of pieces from shoulders, chests, helms, and even weapons. Normally, when you run those dungeons on normal, they give you like 30 item level pieces, but those pieces can scale upwards if you're using Chromie time walking. The goal is to try to get these items as high as you can, but try to hit the item level 50 if possible. If you land on these items at item level 50, certain extra enchants can be applied from older expansions to bolster your character even further. But as a max level character, you cannot use Chromie time walking. This is why you will need a friend who has Chromie time walking enabled for TBC in order to trade you these items. First, make sure your friend has their experience gains turned off. This can be done in capital cities of Stormwind and Orgrimmar. Second, choose a dungeon that will give your character's armor type the most amount of sockets. Make sure these dungeons are set to normal. Run through the dungeon and carry your friend through the whole instance. If your friend gets the item that you could use, have your friend simply trade it to you. You just need your friend to loot the item at the appropriate item level and then be able to trade it to you, so then you can slot it with a bunch of sockets. The gear that your friend will loot will be completely random. This kind of method for gearing ignores any loot tables, so your friend may pick up leather pieces or cloth pieces even though there are a paladin that's a plate class. So this might mean a couple of runs and a couple of resets before you get all of your best in slot pieces. Also, depending when you watch this video, this method may or may not have been nerfed, because I could totally see Blizzard nerfing this at some point in the future. If you use the Burning Crusade method of gearing, then you got all this gear with sockets, but now you need to put gems in these sockets. So these are the best gems to get. Heading over to Stormwind or Orgrimmar, checking in with the PvP vendor, you'll be able to buy base 3 primary stat gems for 1 Marks of Honor. These are not the best gems, but they are easy to get if you're struggling to pick up some of the better gems in the game. The best gems are going to be gems you'll be able to craft, like Cataclysm gems that give you 4 primary stats. These, however, are pretty expensive depending on your auction house and take a long while to craft if you try to craft them yourself. If you're an intellect user, you can pick up some heroic gems from the Dungeon of Black Morass in TBC. Since this instance is in heroic, it's on a daily lockout. But the gems from there give you quite a bit of int and stamina and might be some of the best intellect gems if you are looking to do some of the challenges as a mage, priest, or any other intellect user. Next, let's talk about weapons. Like the gemmed gear and TBC items, there are certain weapons with extra effects, and you can utilize the chromie time walking with a friend in order to get some of those pieces at a higher level. I also found a ton of success inside of the Mage Tower challenge using heirloom gear. Heirlooms are fantastic because they come with a lot of raw secondary stats, like staffs that just have all haste or weapons like two-handed axes that have all crit. For example, for the Shadowlands challenge, your best stat is haste, so I found having more haste lets me get more spells out quicker and burn adds faster. But also I found haste useful for the Holy Paladin challenge to get my spells quicker so I can save my allies in a pinch. You're also going to put enchants on your weapons, and those can be expensive, especially if you're going to be using some of the older enchants. A lot of the older weapon enchants scale incredibly well inside of the Mage Time Walking, though having to buy multiples of these enchants to put on separate socketed weapons can be pretty expensive. But heirlooms let you bypass this by enchanting the weapons with certain enchants, and then you're able to send that heirloom across your old characters, keeping the enchant on that weapon. This way, my warlock, my priest, and my mage all can take advantage of a staff enchanted with extra intellect that also comes with a lot of haste. Speaking about enchants, these are some of the strongest enchants that I've been able to test. For any strength users, Crusader enchant is incredibly strong. It already got nerfed for the Mage Tower, but still it offers 46 extra strength, which is quite a lot from a proc, and a slight bit of healing which can help with survivability. For casters, I found that Machinist Brilliance is probably some of the best intellect that you can get. And for agility users, Force Multiplier is incredibly consistent. If you do want to apply some of these enchants on weapons, some of them do have an item level requirement, as in the weapons have to be low enough item level before you can enchant them with it. It becomes really easy to put those enchants on heirloom gear, since heirloom scales depending on who is holding the heirloom weapon. There's also a lot of different enchants for primary stats, as well as things like spell power and attack power, but this will depend on what kind of gear you are wearing. If you're wearing item level 50 and below TBC gear like we talked about earlier, those pieces can be enchanted. Otherwise, most of the Shadowlands enchants work perfectly fine for the Mage Tower. Then we have consumables. There's a lot of consumables that scale better inside of the Mage Tower than some of the Shadowlands consumables. For example, Battle for Azeroth stat flasks scale better than the current Shadowlands does. Borealis Blood Sausage is a food that gives you quite a lot of primary stats. Unbridled Fury Potion is insanely strong and consistent inside of the Mage Tower challenges for the raw damage that it offers. But you can always run potions from any expansion that gives you primary stats. Things like weapon oils and sharpening stones from older expansions can give you different stats, where in Shadowlands oils gives you extra damage. Some of the older enchants, as long as your weapon is low enough item level, will give you extra primary stats instead. Finally, a section on trinkets. There's a lot of trinkets in the game from older content that work for one reason or another way better than any of the Shadowlands trinkets we currently have. Normally, Shadowlands trinkets do about 3 or 4% of my character's damage, but inside of the Mage Tower, it's like less than 1%. But some of the trinkets on this list, however, are far stronger and will definitely help you make that next boss push. Starting with the Unblinking Haze of Seath, this is a trinket from Warlords of Draenor, the last raid of WoD. Get this trinket on Mythic as any character, even if you are not an intellect user, protection paladins, or red paladins. All classes can actually use the shadow effect that this trinket provides. If you played in Legion, the Unstable Arcana Crystal is fantastic for the extra secondary stats it provides. This trinket is quite rare to get because it drops off of Withered Gem, one of the many world bosses added in Legion. However, all the world bosses in Legion are on a weekly rotation, and it could be a bit before we even see Withered Jim or even get a chance at his trinket when slaying him. If you played in Cataclysm and have Cataclysm Engineering, the Ghost Iron Dragonling is a fantastic trinket. It has customizable, unique cogwheel gems that you can either craft yourself or buy on the auction house, and the dragon that spawns from this trinket does a bit of damage themselves. If you played back in Legion and you have a Ravaged Seed Pod, that's a fantastic trinket inside of the Mage Tower. This one is pretty easy to get. You can either do normal, heroic, or mythic Emerald Nightmare, and the first boss drops the Ravaged Seed Pod. It's a 1 minute on use that actually does some fantastic damage to a single target or AoE. If you played back in BFA and you've done the zone of Mechagon, there's a good chance you've earned the Mechagon Trinket, a customizable trinket with different colored punch cards that offer the trinket different secondary stats and effects. The Quartermaster for the Mechanomes in the zone offers you a red punch card that fires off a laser beam at the target that does a ton of damage. Currently at max level, this is not a good trinket, but it scales incredibly well inside of the Mage Tower and definitely helped me make some of those boss pushes. The Tank Shirt trinket is also fantastic. This trinket provides you healing every time you slay an enemy that gives you experience or honor. The trinket was nerfed, but it still is really good, and even the nerf version provides quite a decent amount of healing. And I think that's everything that I have on my list of all the useful items that I've been able to use myself in order to help me beat some of the Mage Tower challenges. Out of all these items, the ones I found the most helpful have been some of the weapon enchants that have incredibly good proc rates, but also some of the trinkets that offer extra damage that none of the Shadowlands trinkets can compete with. In my time inside of the Mage Tower, I found that there's very difficult to brute force any of the fights. Because of the scaling that Blizzard added for the Mage Tower, it is very difficult to overgear it. So any of the extra gear that I was able to farm up felt more like an alternative gearing method rather than best in slot gearing method. All of the socketed gear and the gems definitely have a payoff as it gives you more primary stats, and primary stats probably offers you the most amount of effectiveness for healing, tanking, or DPS. Though sometimes it felt like maybe too much effort for very little gains, where I found majority of my better attempts inside of the Mage Tower was me rather adjusting my strategy of how I approach the fight rather than the different gear pieces that I've been able to collect. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about all of these items? Are you going to be utilizing any of these items in your next Mage Tower challenge? If you guys enjoyed this video or found it informative, give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. Thank you all so much for watching. I do hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see all of you in the next one.